Hi, everybody. I'm Diane Brady. I'm here with my colleague, Richard Chang, who is on the wealth team, talking about the Billionaires List. Richard, you're here with the fun task of telling us who dropped off.
That's right, Diane.
Okay, let's start with the guest, Sam Bankman-Fried.
Yes, Sam Bankman-Fried is definitely one of the most notable drop-offs this year from the list. We evaluated SBF last year at around $24 billion net worth. But now after the collapse of Alameda Research and FTX, SBF is now worth less than 10 million.
Less than 10 million, but he still has some money. I remember at one point Elizabeth Holmes of Theranos was worth nothing. You know, that was, again, we're talking years ago. But so Sam Bankman-Fried, did he lose the most money?
Out of everyone on the list, yes, SBF lost the most money.
So who else dropped off? And let's start with, how big is this list? First of all, I assume you have to have a certain baseline to get on it. It's not just 1 billion and you're there.
If you're worth $1 billion, that's in terms of your all of your assets, from your cash pile to any real estate you own and any companies you're involved with. All of that is encompassed in your net worth. So we had about 254 people dropped off the list this year. This is people who were on the list back in 2022, but this year didn't make the cut.
Okay, so Richard, judging from my bank account, I would have presumed this year was worse for the billionaires than last year. Am I right?
You would think so, but last year we actually saw the most number of billionaires drop off the list since 2009, of course, after financial crisis. But last year we saw around 360 billionaires fall off the list, but this year...
Crypto?
Yeah, well, this year we saw the crypto bubble burst in many ways. So you'd think there would be a lot more billionaires who fell off the list this year because of what's happening with markets and with crypto. But no, actually this year in total, we only saw 267 billionaires fall off the list, much less than last year.
Were there reasons? I mean, I'm assuming we started with Bankman-Fried, but is crypto one of the big factors that would propel you off the list?
This year, we saw the biggest number of drop-offs from the technology industry. 52 people fell off of the list from that sector, closely followed by finance and investments. 44 billionaires fell off the list this year from there. And also notable was 35 billionaires from manufacturing dropped off the list.
So I want to distinguish a bit, because obviously fraud eviscerates your wealth in a way that the markets are very different. So a lot of people, it's simply that their asset values have shrunk as the markets shrunk. So if the markets improve, odds are high they'll get on the list again, unless they've been big sellers of their, I'm not sure if you're tracking that, but would there be any other notable people who've dropped off simply because their businesses have not done well as opposed to the market?
Yeah, actually, some notable names, in particular, the founders of Wayfair, Niraj Shah and Steve Conine. They fell off the list this year, and that's because the shares in Wayfair plummeted in the past year.
The pandemic's over. We don't need the furniture anymore.
Yeah.
Nested.
See, Wayfair got a big spike in their share prices back during the pandemic. Of course, it's an online furniture and home goods retailer. Everybody was at home. But in the past year, shares plummeted. They announced in January that they would cut 10% of their workforce. And now both of the founders of Wayfair are no longer on the billionaires list.
So you said 200, how many people dropped off from last year to this year?
254 billionaires from last year didn't make the cut this year.
And so a lot of that was their net worth basically in the markets shrunk, or else they were in a business like Wayfair where, the pandemic's run its course, the euphoria is over. What are some of the other trends that you really saw in terms of who were the big losers?
Yeah, there were a lot of different factors in the past year that led to the billionaires dropping off. Of course, there's the ongoing war in Ukraine.
How would that impact somebody's net worth, unless you're in the travel business?
Well, if you're in the energy sector, that'll affect you. Travel, of course, but it has ripple effects across almost any industry.
So who are some of the other names that stood out to you?
Probably another notable name that we should mention is Yvon Chouinard, the founder of Patagonia.
That's the best reason to drop off the list. This is the guy who gave away his wealth, basically.
That's right. Back in September, he gave away his company to a trust and a nonprofit that fights environmental crises. For the longest time, he did not like that. He didn't appear to like that he was on Forbes' Billionaires List.
He cited that as a major factor in why he was giving it away, how much he hated seeing himself on the Forbes Billionaire List. So congratulations, Yvon Chouinard. You're now off the list, so good for him. Would philanthropy be another reason? I've always been intrigued by the fact that, Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, they've been giving away money for years, but yet doesn't seem to have too much of an impact on their net wealth.
Well, for those examples in particular, they're very wealthy individuals. Even if they've given away a lot of their wealth, they're still very wealthy. But Yvon Chouinard, for instance, like his company was the majority of his wealth after he
Patagonia.
After he gave away Patagonia, he's worth less than $1 billion.
So we have the market tanking. Are there other philanthropic examples where people simply are at a stage in their life where they're giving their money away, and that's basically taking them below the $1 billion mark?
I don't know of any other examples of people who have been taken off of the list because they've given away so much of their wealth. But Mackenzie Scott said that she would give away her wealth, and she has continued to
She's still
do
on
that.
The list.
She's still on the list.
Yeah. It's hard to beat that Amazon wealth down too much. What about demographics? I mean, any interesting trends in terms of either the age of who went off the list or where they are in the country? We talked a little bit about some of the industries.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This year, the United States and China accounted for half of the drop-offs. Most of the drop-offs this year we saw, or a lot of the drop-offs we saw this year are people in tech or finance and investments, healthcare, real estate. There's been quite a few. So a lot of the tech industry booms in the United States and China, and that's where we've seen the most drop-offs this year.
So, Richard, I know we're playing the world's smallest violin here for some of our viewers, but if you were to sit back and think about some of the trends that really made you vulnerable in the past year to losing that $1 billion badge, what would they be? Yeah,
so this past year we saw a lot of billionaires lose their wealth due to high inflation over the past year, and of course that has trickling down effects on real estate. For instance, we saw 27 real estate billionaires fall off the list this year. Other things might be, of course, the volatility of crypto markets, and of course we saw the collapse of Silicon Valley Bank earlier this year. That had an effect on the finance and investments sector. So those are the sort of things that I think billionaires should be keeping in mind moving forward when it comes to how they could see their net worth fall and how they should keep that
volatility,
in mind.
Easy come, easy go.
Exactly.
Good thing about volatility is you can, it can get inflated again. So who knows? But good to chat about this. Hope people check out the issue. Thanks.
Thank you for having me, Diane.